Welcome to Azrael Roundtable, episode 189, I think. Maybe something like that. We are on our way back to home. Basically, I'm driving. I shouldn't be doing this while I'm driving, but I am anyway. So I am Ben Bumhofer. With me, as always, is John Jagger. How's it going, John?
It's going well, Ben. Happy to be here in the car, which I have to be in because we're going home.
Oh my God, we're all gonna die!
Yep, and you're driving, and now I've got the microphone, and now we're gonna talk about Blizzcon.
Yeah.
I'll just aim it at you.
I'll
just aim it. You worry about driving, you do you, and I will aim it like the professional interviewer that I am not.
Okay, well, I can't actually... Well, I have to look back at you in order to talk, so it's probably best if you just hand it to me.
It'll pick it up.
Okay, well, I hope so. Anyways, if you hear random laughing, that is Sarah. She is riding with us because, well, that happens. Anyways, so John, BlizzCon happened, and we were going to have an actual recording at the AIE Guild Hall like we do every year, but unfortunately we weren't able to based off of, timing. Some things came up, and, John, you really wanted to watch Heroes. I had stuff I had to do. And the fact that all the recording equipment was gone, so we couldn't actually do it there.
That's right. And I want to make it clear, just for the record, I did not skip out on the recording just to watch Heroes. The recording equipment being gone was thing number one. That was problem number one, with a bullet.
Yeah, okay, I guess that's good enough. I'm okay, because here's the thing. We're doing it now, and I thought it'd be fun to just kind of do it, because we started talking about BlizzCon, and I figured the best thing to do would be to actually just record the show, because otherwise we'll have to say everything again. So, John, let's go game by game. Well, you know what? We'll start with StarCraft 2. What do you think of the announcement of... I honestly don't remember anything that was said about StarCraft 2.
That's okay. I'll take it over from here.
Okay, good.
So, StarCraft 2, they announced a new co-op commander, and that they're going to finish the new, or the last chapter, I guess it would be, of the Nova co-op, or not co-op, the Nova Ops. That's what I'm trying to say. Nova Ops, leave the co out of it. And I'm actually excited about that because I have started doing StarCraft co-op, and it's actually a lot of fun. I really, really enjoy it. If you have a friend who is even just slightly interested in StarCraft, I recommend going, doing it, picking it up, playing it. It's a real good time. But, Alexei Stukov, I think that's his name.
Something like that.
Sounds about right. He got announced. He's a Zerg man. And, he looks like a man, but he is also Zerg.
Oh. So that's what a Zerg man is.
Yep, so that's StarCraft 2. John's excited, and probably nobody else is, but that's okay.
No, some people are. I mean, we were sitting, okay, so the opening ceremonies happened. You were in the main hall for that, weren't you?
Yeah.
Okay. We were in the Overwatch arena, and, some people were happy about that, so, go them. It's just, I'm still in the, fourth mission of the Wings of Liberty campaign, so I'm not too worried about getting into StarCraft anytime soon.
Yeah, you got a ways to go before you're all set and done.
Yeah, exactly. However, something that, surprisingly, I'm actually kind of excited about is the Diablo announcements. Now, I never actually played through Diablo 1 or Diablo 2. Got through Diablo 3, and obviously we have that Patreon video where you helped me power level my character. So, I played a fair share of Diablo 3, but the Necromancer. Now, a lot of people from, just kind of murmurings that I heard is that, it plays a lot like the Witch Doctor. But the way I look at it is it's going to be entirely different because, Blizzard doesn't throw character classes into a game like that, just feel the same. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they actually balance, I'm just bringing things back to life and we're going to kill things and, running around with a million skeleton pets and other things like that. And I want to ask, did you get a chance to play it at all? And if so, how does it feel compared to Diablo 2?
Yeah, so I did get to play the Necromancer, got to try him out. Now, here's my disclaimer. I was not a Necromancer player in Diablo 2. I was probably like the only person who didn't, but I played Paladin, and then I played a Druid and an Assassin, and those were kind of the main classes that I played in Diablo 2. But I do know the basis behind the Necromancer. I did play with it. I do get why it's cool, why people would be excited. It's definitely their most popular class that they've ever done for the game. So I know Scott is a huge Necromancer fan, and he was saying that almost stole the show for him.
Oh, wow.
Because it just means that much to him. So yeah, there's going to be some overlap between the Witch Doctor and the Necromancer, because the Witch Doctor was designed to be the let's cater to the Necromancer fans for Diablo 3. With what we had available on the floor, we basically had a rudimentary kit. You couldn't change your abilities, you couldn't augment them with runes. It was, this is what you got, go. And so, even with just that, I was having a blast. To me, Diablo is going to just be Diablo. And adding more to that game is always going to be good, because I always want more, and it always just makes it continue to be fun. So, I think what we're going to ultimately see is, with different abilities, with the ability to augment them with runes, we're going to see that differentiation build there. And I think people who are a fan of the Necromancer class are going to just absolutely fall in love with it. Because their goal definitely seems to be, let's recapture the magic. Let's not try and create something brand new with the Necromancer name on it.
Yeah. Now, something that I thought was actually interesting is the fact that they're adding 2 new maps to Adventure Mode. And I thought that'd be kind of neat. I mean, granted, it's not going to be an expansion, and so, everybody's kind of a bit bummed about that because, I mean, let's face it, Reaper of Souls ended in such a cliffhanger, like, low note. Okay, how can it be both of those things? But, the story was just like, oh, it hasn't been resolved at all, and it just left you wanting more. So I think everybody was, really thinking that we were going to get that expansion. But with 2 new maps on there, I'm interested to see if that's going to be playing into something else, if they're going to be adding, more bosses to it or anything like that, because it's just, it's content that's already there that everybody's played a whole bunch of. And granted, I know Diablo isn't really the game that's focused on story. I mean, granted, they have great storytelling in it, and it's all about, getting loot, playing with friends, and just going and destroying everything. But how do you think that the 2 new maps are going to help kind of play into that?
To me, them talking about we're adding new maps for adventure modes, not a huge, big deal for me. Diablo, you see a lot of the same tile sets over and over again, so obviously anytime you can change that up, there's something to it. But at the same time, it's, hey, you're gonna go and you're gonna have missions to do in a place that's gonna look different. Yay. But I kind of stand by what I said, which was more Diablo is good for me across the board, because I'm kind of sick of new seasons being, hey, we added a number to the season, and you get a new portrait border, and here's a chance to get some of the same armor that's been in circulation for 10 or however many seasons it's been. It just seems really, really weird to me that it's gotten so small as far as content goes. So any new content is good content. I know there are people that are disappointed that it wasn't an expansion, disappointed that it wasn't Diablo 4, but the way I see it is this. We know that team is ramping up for something. We don't know what that something is. And while everybody wanted an announcement, I think we all know Blizzard's not going to do it until they're ready to show something. So if they're not at that place yet, there's no announcement. That doesn't mean the game's not being made. It's not like it's not getting made until they talk about it. So it's just going to take a little bit more time, and thankfully we're getting something to hold us over until we get there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even bite-sized bits of Diablo, in new content in that sense is better than nothing. Which, like you said, I think a lot of people just kind of forget that sometimes. Now, something that is new that, I can't really speak too much on is Mean Streets of Gadgetzan. Now, I don't play a lot of Hearthstone and everything, but it comes back to the idea of, that you and I have talked about before, or it's like, we want to play in that version of WoW. And just from the different trailer and the idea that Gadget Zan is actually something really, like, much bigger than just a little tiny port and stuff, is really intriguing to me. And I really love that. The way that they're doing, like, you know, the tri-spec cards and everything like that is actually really interesting. And it's something that's, you know, is adding a new dynamic to Hearthstone that I think, you know, it is something that could actually bring a lot more players into it. You know, one of the big hurdles that I have getting into the game is the fact that, you know, I haven't spent any time trying to build a deck. I said deck. Or, you know, crafting cards or you know, unlocking different things like that. So it's tough for me to kind of get in and actually be competitive and play, and that's one of the reasons why I haven't really done it. But the idea of having special cards that are set up, you know, like the, what was it, like they were called the Guild Masters or something like that, where there's like these, you know, legendary cards or whatever that work for 3 different specs for Hearthstone, and you know, it's just that much more, you know, kind of playing around with the different cards and all that stuff that it seems like it could be a lot of fun and, you know, open up a lot of different gameplay possibilities that weren't there before. So, I don't know, it might be something that actually gets me into the game. We'll see.
Yeah, I think with Hearthstone, you know, this kind of is always going to tie back to that discussion we had, and maybe this is going to open up a whole nother can of worms with what I'm about to say, but I was right there with you. It's once again yet another view into the world of Warcraft where I'm thinking, man, that's a universe I want to play a game in. Maybe not necessarily Hearthstone, but I want to play, like, I want to be in that world. And it's always really weird to find myself thinking that, because technically we do play in that world with World of Warcraft. But the thing that I kept thinking through the entire thing is, like, this is how I would want to build an MMO. You know, I don't want necessarily an MMO where every expansion we have to discover some new continent, some new planet, some new moon, or cave, or any other thing. Like, sometimes an MMO's biggest strength is that it's a living, breathing world, and I think them showing, here's Gadget Zan. Here's Gadget Zan post-Cataclysm. Here's what Gadget Zan's grown into. Like, I want to play an MMO where that happens. Where a place can go from a dusty little town to all of a sudden a big megalopolis with gangs vying for control of the streets. It's got a real 20s vibe, which I love. It's an aesthetic that I love, and they're hitting it out of the park with atmosphere and aesthetic, and I would love to see some of that bleed into WoW. Doesn't hurt that the art on those cards is just incredible. Blizzard has amazing artists in-house, and that they tap for Hearthstone content, and it just immediately makes a world that I want to see and want to be in. And so, I don't know, I would like to see, I know it's kind of like going back to the ideas behind Cataclysm, because it's updating old zones, but there's a part of me that kind of would love to see more of that, a world that could evolve over the course of a year, rather than just, now this is going to be the way it's going to be, and then you'll find something new later.
Yeah, and, you know, moving along to that, you know, sort of thought process, it's almost like it's about time for that to happen again. I mean, it'll essentially wipe out the Cataclysm, you know, storyline, if you look at it that way. But also, you know, we'll see if this does something to Burning Crusade and maybe rather than Lich King. You know, have that stuff actually available still in some form. And, I mean, it's not like it's the first time that a certain zone is actually completely phased depending on what version of it that you want. Like, right now, it's with Blasted Lands, you can have pre-Warlords or post-Warlords. You know, you get to choose which one you want. Recently, you said that you went back to Theramore, and it turns out, oh, I need to go to a different version of Theramore in order to do whatever it was you needed to do.
Look for a dead gnome body.
Yeah, exactly. So, just just the idea that, you know, we're able to do that sort of phasing and stuff means that maybe they could build new leveling experiences and everything on top of the current world, so that, yeah, when you're actually, you know, if anybody's actually starting from level 1 and going through, you can still have those experiences, and then when you get the quest to like go back to that zone or something, maybe it automatically switches over, and you can go back to the Northern Barrens and see changes that were made or something like that. That's a interesting thing that I think that's it'd be pretty cool to see.
Well, and even, I mean, we live in a world where there's heavy scaling, heavy quest scaling. We're getting to a place where levels almost don't matter in the game anymore. And I know we're approaching heresy by making the suggestion of no levels or things like that. But if you constructed a game in such a way where you're unlocking abilities still and you still have some sort of power shift, it becomes less important that we need to add new content that's going to get you from this level to this level, and you suddenly have the opportunity to just say, no, we're going to tell a story in a world, and it's going to evolve over time, and it's going to change over time. And I honestly, who knows what it would do to their subscriber base. Maybe it would make people mad, but I kind of like the idea that, like, no, I was there for that year, so I saw that year's story.
Yeah.
But if you jump in here, in this year, you're getting this year's story, and maybe there isn't necessarily a way to go back and experience the other stuff. Now, again, that gets tricky because suddenly people are like, yeah, but I discovered the game here, and I want to like all of the stuff too. So I think there would be logistics that would need to be figured out, but I don't know. That's the thing I always come back to. That's the thing I always want to try and figure out and see the genre evolve, because I think MMOs are kind of a dying breed as they are, but I think they could evolve into something really cool, and I would like to see that.
Yeah, and if anything's going to be able to, it's WoW, because, they still have the subscribership and the player base for it. And, I mean, just like you said, with the level scaling and, zone scaling and everything like that they have, it's almost like it's just a step in the right direction for that sort of, thinking and that sort of mentality, which I'm with you on that. I would love to see the world to be able to change. And, yeah, I'm playing now, so I would have seen all that stuff. And, next year if it's gone, it's gone. But having some way to be able to do both would be, a great step. But speaking of steps forward, holy crap, World of Warcraft, all the stuff that they have for that, in the... Well, I mean, it was really in the What's Next Legion panel that, most of the information was brought about, because the opening ceremonies is like, yeah, Warcraft is a thing, and it happened. But then what's next? I mean, we saw their idea of what's going to be happening with the next small patch that's coming, the next big patch that's coming. They kind of talked about their philosophy behind it, and the thing that, I mean, most gets me excited, I mean, aside from the patch content, which, I mean, we'll dig into that, but it's the fact that they're really pushing and working on trying to follow through with their idea of, we're going to have content coming, and they don't want to have the big drought that was there, at the end of every expansion, but even more so, they understood that the pacing and everything that they had with Warlords, it just didn't work. So, yeah, they're giving us a lot of content, and, I mean, to the people who are complaining about that, would you prefer to be complaining about there's not enough to do? But it's just really exciting, the fact that we're moving forward. We have, new raids coming, new dungeons coming, and I'm stoked for everything that's going to be happening with World of Warcraft.
Yeah, they're really nailing it for me, for what I want, for what I want to see, for what I want them to do. And that whole what's on the horizon was just a nonstop, like, no, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for that. Even if it's something that I'm not excited for, like their kind of micro holidays that they talked about, yeah, which I was kind of like, yeah, alright, I see what you're doing, and I think it's kind of cool, but it's not going to probably be something for me. But even if it's not for me, it speaks of an attitude that they're having towards content now that I think is really healthy for the game, which is, let's stop looking at the game as, no, everything we need to put in needs to be perfect, or as perfect for everyone as it can be. Like, let's just put in stuff that's kind of dumb and kind of fun and is going to be what it's going to be. So, yeah, they totally nailed it for me. The new artifact appearances, new class mounts, flying coming in and them just being real clear and up front. I mean, obviously that's something that's going to be a goal for them based on the fallout from how it was handled last time, but I'm really excited for the future of Legion, and holy shit, we're going to Argus at the end of the whole thing.
Yeah, that is, I mean, okay, so it wasn't specifically stated, but that's what we're doing. And the thing that is probably the most interesting to me is the fact that, okay, so we're going to Argus. They told us. But they didn't, it's not like them to be like, oh, and the next expansion is this. So they talked about the next patch, and then at the end of it, they said, oh yeah, but we had to stop the Legion, and we have to go somewhere and finish them there and everything. So, are we going to Argus at the end of this expansion? Because if so, holy crap, how cool is that? I mean, we're going to the Tomb of Sargeras. There's a portal to Argus right there. Let's go through and just take this out. So, there's potential for, a whole nother continent on the other side of that for us to actually explore, maybe, do more questing stuff with it and everything. But even more so, like, maybe actually put an end to the Legion. The implications are crazy on that.
Yeah, and I guess during a developer interview, I heard this, it caught my eye, so I immediately read it and was like, alright, way to go, guys. They said that they're looking at the end of Legion very much at the way Mass Effect 2 ended, which was, you do all of this, we're defending, we're trying to, prevent them from invading. Alright, we've done that. Now we're going on a suicide mission to stop them once and for all. And they said that was kind of the template they were looking at, and I was like, well, hey guys, there's a template I can get behind.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, they're saying the right things for the story beats. I was on record as saying I thought we were not only not going to Argus, but I thought we were probably an entire expansion away. I thought we would get whatever this was going to be, then probably some Old God stuff in the next expansion. I'm still very firmly certain we're going to be getting Old God stuff next expansion. And then the expansion after that would be Argus. And the only reason I thought it'd be divided up like that is because I didn't think that they would want to go demon-focused expansion to demon-focused expansion after they kind of did that with orcs. But no, we're not even getting that. Turns out we're going to Argus this expansion, in the demon expansion. And that's super crazy. That's super exciting.
I hope it ends with us actually destroying Argus completely. I don't know why, that seems like it'd be something kind of cool.
Except the Legion is not our enemy, Ben.
I know, it's the old gods. Maybe. Hopefully, I don't know. But, I mean, the idea of us going there, finishing that fight and everything, and then moving forward to the bigger threats. I mean, we always joke about how you have to Dragon Ball Z things, we can become more powerful each time. We have to have more powerful, enemies and stuff like that. It makes sense that the old gods are going to be next. I mean, we essentially kind of had to take care of one with your Saj, or not your Saj, whatever the Shah of everything was. We're just, taking apart bit by bit and destroying it and stuff like that. So we have some experience with some of that. I mean, we've done Yogg Saron, but that's not the old god that's part of it. Like the Eye Cthulhu, that we didn't kill Cthulhu, we stabbed his eye. It's one of those things where it opens up so many different possibilities where, who knows what's going to be in that sort of design and the different places that we're going to go. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. I said that my big takeaway with World of Warcraft is that it is not only in a really good place right now, but that it's in really capable hands. Obviously we've seen a lot of fluctuations from the team. Legion came out, we heard a lot about a lot of people leaving. There were some very high profile ones. There were some that were maybe less high profile, but very noticeable people leaving from either the WoW team or maybe even Blizzard altogether. But I think seeing what their goal is, what they're working on, what they're working towards, I think it's very, very safe to say that WoW is in very capable hands and in a very, very good place.
Exactly. Definitely. So moving forward, speaking of WoW, with Legion, we lost some heroes. And I gotta ask, how excited are you to be able to see one of those heroes in one of your favorite games?
I'm really excited, because Varian Wryn's coming to Heroes of the Storm, and Varian Wryn's cool. I didn't used to think so, but he really won me over, and I really like him. So I got to play him, and he's fun. I would definitely recommend playing him first, and that's good, because that's the order in which they're coming out, because he was not the only hero announced. But I guess before we talk about that, Ben, from somebody who plays Heroes of the Storm from time to time, not a lot, but you do like the game, is Varian Wryn interesting at all to you?
Well, the fact that you can play him, as essentially 3 different modes. You have, big sword, slashy dude. You have, dual wielding sword, slashy dude. And then you have, a shield defender kind of guy. It's like, it's almost 3 characters in one, but the fact that you can kind of change how you play dramatically throughout the course of a match is a really interesting thing to do, because you can, depending on either what your comp actually ends up needing, or if you want to just be able to, push your strategy in a certain way, you can flip it mid-match, which, that's something that's kind of new, because with Karazim, you pretty much, choose from the very beginning which way you want to, spec out your different talents and your build. So being able to do that is, opening up a whole worlds of gameplay. But even more so, as a, just as a hero, I'm really interested in seeing, how he melds with some of the current heroes that are already, in the game that have been announced, that you've been playing for, forever now. Now, granted, I obviously don't have the know-how and the sense or the skill to, make a judgment call on that, but he seems like, a really well-rounded character that fits in and fills, possibly several different niches for different types of team comps.
Yeah, it's going to be good. You're going to really be allowed to change, not necessarily on the fly, but at certain talent tiers, you're going to be able to really maybe surprise your opponent with how you're going to be playing him. You might start picking very defensive talents and then all of a sudden do a switch and go attack and kind of turn him into a bruiser at that point. And that's going to throw people off. That's going to make people wonder, like, oh, I didn't know to expect this. I didn't know to draft for this. So that's going to make him really interesting. Plus, that cinematic was really freaking cool.
Well, and we actually got a chance to talk to Taryn Gregory about that. And, you pointed out that it's actually done in the Overwatch engine, which is one of the reasons why it just looks so beautiful as we're, seeing the lava and the fire and just the detail on the character models and everything. And, the announcement was great. It's the story of just a fallen warrior, and he's going through, walking past all these weapons and the Lich King's helmet and everything, and then he gets to the lava, and I'm like, at that point, I'm like, oh god, they're actually putting Ragnaros in, and I nearly flipped. I'm like, this might be something that gets me back into the game a lot more, because I like the idea of Ragnaros. First of all, walking around in his itty bitty legs, just going around and trying to kick ass that way. But his special ability of, you could take over any fort that is either broken or still up and operational and everything, and just be a boss is something cool. Yeah, you can be a Dragon Knight, or you can be, John, I know your favorite, the Garden Terror. That's kind of cool and everything. But actually being Ragnaros and popping up and being the Flame Lord and, just shooting out molten lava and stuff down an entire lane and dropping just meteors and throwing out the balls and all that stuff, that seems like it's going to be so much fun that I'm going to jump in. I'm probably going to get him right away, and I'm going to try that out and just have a blast with it.
For sure, Ragnaros was by far my favorite character that I played during this BlizzCon. He is so much fun, and he falls right into exactly what you want him to be, which is a boss. You feel powerful, you feel awesome. When he's in his smaller form, you still feel pretty cool. You're doing a lot of damage. He's considered an assassin, for anybody that's wondering. And he feels like it. He does a lot of damage. He has a lot of cool moves. He has a sweet move where he drops a boulder from the sky, but it doesn't just come down and hit. It then rolls. And you get to control the direction it rolls. So you can actually land it behind your opponent and have it roll towards you. If they're trying to get away, you can have it land on them and then follow them and make them zig instead of just running straight away. It has all sorts of utility, but that moment when you take over a downed keep or an upkeep, if it's on your side, and he just appears so huge, and you cast this swing ability, it takes up half the screen.
Oh, man.
When he does the swing, he has a huge range on all of his abilities. So, for example, you can take over a downed keep at the very end, and you can hit the core with his abilities.
Oh, nice.
That's the kind of range we're talking. You can't with the sweep. The sweep comes up short, but he does these fiery meteors. Those will hit. He can drop a flame rune on the ground. That'll hit. So he just becomes this incredible powerhouse. Not to mention the biggest thing on the battlefield. And it is just incredible. Sending fire down an entire lane, which does a lot of damage to heroes, and yeah, it's avoidable. I can see people already kind of looking at it and going, well, just get out of the way of it. It just takes up a lane. And yeah, that's true, but it also potentially pushes you into traps on one end, and on the other end of the spectrum, that fire insta-kills any minion it hits. So, if you have a lane that is pushed in and you have a Ragnaros on your team, even if he's not going to kill heroes with that fire wave, if you have a wave of minions going all the way up to your core, you send it down one lane, you've got an instantly completely cleared lane by the time that fire has traveled its distance. So, he's going to be a playmaker with regards to that as well. And, yeah, he's absolutely one of the most fun characters I've ever played. And he has you will like this, Ben, this might be a number one deal for you. His first skin that he comes with, beyond like his normal skin and his master skin, is based on the little rag pet from World of Warcraft.
Okay, that's awesome. No question about him though. I mean, just from your limited play, do you think that because he is so powerful that for like Team League and everything, like, and Hero League and all that he's actually going to be a must-have in order to, be able to overpower the other team?
I don't think Heroes has any must-haves, because I think anytime that a character becomes a must-have, it usually means they're also a must-ban right now. So what we see a lot of, like right now, I think, at least recently, Malfurion and Samoru, the newest hero, have had a 100% pick or ban rate, which means they either get picked or they either get banned. And so, I think if Ragnaros comes out super overpowered, he's just gonna get banned constantly, and you just won't see him. And then they'll nerf him, and he'll be at a reasonable level, and then he becomes, not a necessity anymore. So, I mean, they do a very good job at balancing that. I do think he's gonna be powerful. I think he's that nice little path of extremely fun to play and extremely powerful at the same time. And so it wouldn't surprise me if he is a very sought after pick for a while at least when he comes out.
Okay, that makes sense. Cool. I'm very much looking forward to actually trying him out. And, I'll probably maybe dabble a little bit with Varian, but Ragnaros is really the hero that is pulling me in because it's cool. It's just really, really cool. Now, if you want to talk about something else that's really, really cool, dude, Sombra. Did you get a chance to try Overwatch at all?
Yeah, so I played Sombra, and she's fun. She's very weird. It's going to take a while to get used to her abilities because one of the biggest mechanics about her is that she can hack things. So she can hack health wells so that only your team can pick up health from those places. She can hack enemy players so that they can't use their abilities. They can only use their left click, essentially. And I think that's going to be very interesting to see how that all works. There's already a lot of things I'm considering, like if you see a Mercy power boosting somebody and you hack her, is she then locked into power boosting until the hack goes away and she suddenly become incapable of healing during that time? There's a lot of questions I have of how does it work with this? How does it work with this? But she also still feels very counterable at the same time. If she takes any damage while you're hacking, she drops the hack. It doesn't go through. So characters that can do a lot of quick little damage to her will prevent that from happening a lot. And, yeah, she looks absolutely great. Got a cool SMG. She's got a little teleport ball thing that she throws, which reminded me immediately of Tribes and the little translocator discs you could throw places. It basically works a lot like that. So she's got a really fun kit, and I played her for a while, and then everybody was playing her naturally, which is what they did. So then I switched to Mei, and I killed everybody. So that was also a really fun time.
Yeah, I was able to get into the Overwatch line, which surprisingly, it went a lot faster than I thought it would. But I got a chance to play her, and I got to say, I really enjoyed her. The cool thing is that when we played, it was me and only one other person on the other team, or on our team, who was a Sombra. Everyone else was normal, so I got to see a little bit more of the, like the counter in her style of play versus other characters. So one of the things that I know a lot of people were, a little concerned about was her invisibility. It's not like a rogue invisibility in WoW where you stealth and then you're stealth until you're done. It's a 20-second ability, so you hit it and then you're completely invisible. Like the other team, they don't see a shimmer, they don't see anything like that. That's something that I think is actually really interesting because there is no counter to that unless you're randomly shooting and she gets in the way. So in order to actually play Sombra well, you have to be very mindful of where you are in position of others when you're actually stealthing and running around. But when she is stealth, she's got that speed boost as well. That is really fun, and that is something that I used to get back to battle really fast because the invisibility actually cooldown regenerates a lot faster than I thought that it would. So there's a chance they might nerf that at some point. But even more so, like you're saying, hacking the health pack actually came in really handy a couple times. But even more so, that EMP, her ultimate is great. So I at one point, it was near the end of the match, I totally took one for the team, but we're near the end of the match, time's ticking down, I know that they have their ultimates, they're ready to go, so I stealthed, ran into the middle of the entire team, hit my EMP, they all shot me dead within a heartbeat, but at that point, the rest of the team was able to go in there and wipe them out because they were focusing on me, and they didn't have all their extra abilities, so they couldn't, D.Va couldn't, reflect bullets back. Winston couldn't jump away, just different things like that. That EMP and that hack is a total game changer because it's something that, we've never seen in the game before. But like you said, Sombra herself is actually counterable at this point because even though you don't have special abilities, you still have access to your gun. You still have access to, being able to move around and stuff like that. She doesn't put some sort of weird slow on you or something. And it added a lot to the gameplay on that. And she was just a blast to play. What?
Will stealth be used to push people into holes and stuff?
Oh, what? That's actually a good idea. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, just boop them.
That's the new way. That's the new way to do it. We booped them.
Exactly. So yeah, and then let's see. The second match that I did, I actually switched to Reinhardt. We ended up winning that match, but there was a Sombra on the other team, and I know that they were just kind of experimenting with her and everything like that. But I didn't find her to be overwhelmingly hard to counter or worry anything about that. And just the balance changes and everything like that, they're going to potentially come with her aren't going to be very severe, which is something that I was a little worried about with the full stealth character.
Yeah, based on what Sombra can do, part of me wonders if this is a character that took a real long time to get out there, because, losing control of your character is traditionally very unfun. Losing all of your abilities suddenly is very unfun. So I'm sure they had to do a lot of testing to find the right balance to make sure that this was not going to be a character that just ruined other players' days in a really unfun kind of way. It's one thing, if you're going up against somebody that's just really good and they keep killing you. It's another thing if you don't feel like there's anything you can do because you never have control of your character. So I think that's maybe why we saw the Sombra game get played out maybe a little longer than people expected or were hoping for.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, as soon as you said it took a long time to balance, I'm like, yeah, like 6 months or so. So I'm just glad that Blizzard put as much effort into making sure that she's fun as well as useful to the team, because, I mean, how horrible would it be if they introduced a new character who no one plays just because they're worthless? I mean, that's one of those things that, when you're bringing in new heroes, like in Heroes of the Storm or Overwatch and everything, you have to make sure that everything works, really well and is very fluid together. Otherwise, all the effort that you put into it, it's kind of a waste.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious where they go from here, because, I'm curious every time they announce a new hero in Overwatch, because, it feels like sometimes there's only so many ways you can creatively shoot somebody. And so you get to a point where, like, when we were doing the prediction show, and we don't want to get into that because we're going to do our whole predictions reveal later, but when we were doing it, I kept wanting to say, yeah, they're going to add somebody that does a lot of fire, and it's going to be like a flamethrower and stuff like that. But you think about it, and it's like, well, Mei is the opposite. She's doing ice, but the way her attack comes out is kind of fire-based. They kind of cover a lot of bases with characters that they already have. And so that was one of the hardest parts, was coming up with, if they were to do another character, what would their gimmick be? It's tough. It's hard to think of a new way to creatively shoot people, and I think they found a way to creatively shoot people.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of what we talked about in that section, particularly that intrigued me, was when Jules came up with the whole, kind of an AoE kind of attack. And, that'd be something that'd be kind of different. I mean, there is some splash damage with, Junkrat and Zarya, but having something where that's their main focus of, maybe putting down patches of fire or something like that, that'd be interesting. And you could force people into different areas and set up traps, and it becomes so much more strategy, kind of more like a MOBA or a Heroes match than a normal first-person shooter. So, who knows, if they add something like that, that'd be kind of cool. It'd be a new way to do it. To kind of close off with Overwatch, though, the arcade is something that I'm actually really interested in, because a big part of it is they're adding, multiple gameplay modes to that, as well as having the brawls and everything as well. So there's a lot that's actually being put into Overwatch that you got piecemeal since the game's been released. One of those big ones, which I highly recommend to anyone who, is just kind of picking up Overwatch and you're trying to figure out how to play heroes and stuff, is the Mystery Heroes Brawl. That's going to be there always. And that, aside from Quick Match, that's one of the big things that I've played a ton of. Whenever it came up for Brawl, I'm like, yay, Mystery Heroes. Because, one, it forces you to learn how to play other characters, and also think really creatively to counter other characters based on what you have. But even more so, it's just random crazy fun, and I'm actually really excited that that's being, put in permanently into the system.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing a lot of Blizzard across the board. WoW announced that they were going to be doing brawls. Brawl, essentially PvP content. We've got Overwatch, which kind of started it on that name, but now they're doing arcade stuff. we're seeing a lot of Blizzard wanting to do experiments with the games, and I feel like with Overwatch, considering it was the first place for a lot of this stuff, we're now getting to the point where we're seeing a lot of the payoff to a lot of that experimentation as well.
Yeah, and last but not least, I gotta say, the Overwatch League is something that I am incredibly proud of Blizzard for, and also excited for. Who knows, I might actually try out and fail miserably, but I could say that, I tried out for a professional, sports thing.
You were almost Crusher 9-9.
Yeah, I was almost Crusher. I was Crusher 9-8. I was that close to it. But, the fact that they're doing it with salaries, they're having benefits, having, regional teams and things like that, they're really, I think, taking a huge step towards legitimizing, esports and likening it to something that, for lack of a better term, the normies will understand and appreciate. And that's something that I think is a right step in esports overall, but much less, it's something that will give everybody some sort of pride because, with sports teams, you cheer for the home team. Well, guess what? If there's like a Phoenix or an Arizona team, I'm all for them. It's going to be great. But the fact that they're taking that step and just, doing all of that, throwing it all together, and, really pushing for it, that is, first of all, a huge undertaking, but the fact that they're using Overwatch for that, I think, is actually pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was, I think, probably the biggest news of the con. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to be really cool to see where they go with all of that. And I don't know. I hope for the best. I think this all paves a great path for esports, which I spent a lot of my weekend participating in that stuff. So I'm in. I'm the target demographic, and yeah, I think it's a good way to turn their attention.
All right. Are you going to try and be Crusher 99?
No.
Okay.
Because you can't type numbers.
Oh, okay.
There was no truth to that video, Ben. You can't type numbers.
If you say so.
No, we know so. We tried. We got a Blizzard dev to try as well, and the best he could come up with was Crusher Nin Nin.
Well, perfect then. Well, John, with that, other than just overall, was it a good BlizzCon?
Yeah, it was a great BlizzCon. I'm curious to hear what people at home think, because it's always weird when you're there. Sometimes you're there and you get back and people are like, "Man, what a lame BlizzCon," and I always think like, "What? It was great. We had fun. It was great." Or sometimes the people at home are 1,000 times more hyped, and I wonder why. And it turns out it's because it was on a panel I didn't watch, and then I get hyped after I get home. So I'm excited. I'm excited to parse it all and see where we're at.
Yeah, definitely me too. One thing I would like to say is everybody who was at BlizzCon who got a chance to come and say hi, thank you so much for listening and reaching out to us. And it was great meeting everybody. And I'd look at the camera right now if I wasn't driving so that you could see like how incredibly genuine this is. But it's always a pleasure meeting fans, but more so, just meeting the community that we've been able to foster. And that's one of the reasons why I try to make it to BlizzCon each year, because just seeing everybody, plus seeing friends that we've met in previous years and all that, it really makes the show for me. I really had so much fun with all of that. So thank you.
Yeah, we met a lot of people, and
We gave out buttons.
We gave out buttons. We gave out a lot of buttons, and, there were people that I still heard from that said they didn't get to see us, didn't get to meet us. It's a very crazy time. It's very hectic. Sometimes I felt like it was just on my way to meet one person, got to say, hey, and then got pulled away by something else or someone else, and the next thing I know, I'm in a totally different place. You don't always have control over where you go at BlizzCon. If I'm being totally honest, one of the biggest embarrassing things that I can say about this BlizzCon is I felt so incredibly busy, and yet I saw the main stage, and I saw the hallway that led up to the Heroes Esports area, and I didn't see anything else on the show floor. I never got out to just explore and see the show floor. That was it. Those were the places I went on the actual convention. There were, 3 halls that I didn't even remotely go into or begin to explore. So it's a crazy time. Everybody that I got to see and meet, you all were wonderful. For anybody that I didn't, I'm really sorry. I wish I had. We will shoot for next year. And, I don't know, maybe next year we can, well, we were gonna have the live show, so that would have been a guaranteed. So, hopefully next year we can have something a bit more set as a guaranteed place to get together with people in the community, people who dig what we do, and really spend time together, cause, yeah, I wish there could have been more. I wish there could have been more time and all of that.
Yep. So with that, John, how can people find you?
If you want to hear more from me, you can follow me on Twitter at John_Jagger. If you want to hear me talk more about Heroes of the Storm, you can listen to Core. And you can find that show at heroesforyou.com. Ben, what about you?
First of all, I shouldn't have yelled core because that really hurt. But for me, the best thing to do is follow me on Twitter. I am at Ben the Mage. I also do a show with Eludra about battle pets in World of Warcraft called Battle Pets, so definitely check that out. And last but not least, I do Geektopia with Alakaz and Lita, and we talk about a whole bunch of random geeky stuff. I feel like yelling core broke my voice, so...
Yep, it's going. It's going. One last thing before we finally sign off here. For those of you who support us at Patreon, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed the stuff that we put forward in October. We're constantly looking at ways to, make that worth your while. And we plan to keep doing cool stuff like that and keep building on it. It's always difficult on a week or in a month where we're also trying to manage a BlizzCon and all that stuff. So hopefully we're going to have more time to bring you more exclusive content and all of that. If you want to get in on that and you want to be a part of it, patreon.com/AzerothRT. You are what makes this happen.
That is very true. Now, John, let's go home and, I have a lot of stuff that I've got to do, like, watching every single thing from BlizzCon and re-listening to our prediction show.
Yes. It's time to go watch all the BlizzCon panels, now that I'm not at BlizzCon anymore.
Very true. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
This podcast recorded before a live internet audience. To learn how to listen and watch live, visit tunein.alphageekradio.com.
Azeroth Roundtable is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Non-Derivative, Unported license. For more information, go to creativecommons.org. 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 creativecommons.org.